Welcome to Scanner School. This is session number 9, and we are continuing our trunked radio series by talking about EDACS.
Welcome to the Scanner School, a podcast dedicated to the scanner radio hobby. Class is about to begin. Here is your host, Phil Lichtenberger.
Welcome to the Scanner School podcast. My name is Phil Lichtenberger. My amateur radio call sign is W2LIE. So on today, we're going to continue our trunked radio series. We're going to talk about EDACS, which is an acronym for Enhanced Digital Access Communications System. Again, it's EDACS, which is Echo Delta Alpha Charlie Sierra in the abbreviation. So EDACS, again, we're building upon what we learned about last week when we talked about LTR. And as usual, the show notes will be available online, and you can just put the session number at the end of the website URL. So because today is session number 9, what you would do is go to scannerschool.com/session9, and that's the numerical number 9. So if you go to the website, you'll get a link to the podcast. You can listen to it online if you're not listening to it on a handheld podcast player or something like that. Again, you can always subscribe to us on iTunes at scannerschool.com/iTunes, at Stitcher on scannerschool.com/Stitcher, and also on Google Play at scannerschool.com/Google Play. Now, I'm aware there's other podcast software out there, and if you're using something different, I would love to know what you're using to listen to the Scanner School podcast on. Do me a favor, leave me some feedback. You can do so on our Facebook group, which is gaining a lot of momentum lately, and the conversations that are going on there are great. So if you want to join our Facebook group, it's at scannerschool.com/Facebook group. And again, before we start, I want to remind everybody that we're in the middle of a contest right now. I am giving away 3 free consulting sessions with myself. And all you need to do to qualify for one of the 3 free consulting sessions, it's a 30-minute session, just go to our Facebook group, and the easiest way to get there, again, is scannerschool.com/Facebook group. Make sure that you join the group and leave one comment or a question about something that is you're stumbling on, or something that you just need a little bit more information about. Or just introduce yourself. And the community there is growing day by day. And I want to thank everybody who's a member of the group. This podcast wouldn't be here without all the feedback and all the members. And thank you all for your support. So again, the contest is running from now until February 28th, 2018. And we will announce the 3 winners on our podcast on March 6th. So you have, again, until the end of the day on February 28th to become a member of the group, and be sure to leave a comment or a question in the on the Facebook group. Okay, so let's talk EDACS. EDACS it kind of builds on what we learned about last week on session number 8 with LTR trunking. So EDACS also uses what we call logical channel numbering, which is when you have to program the scanner in a set order in order to trunk track on this system properly. And the reason you have to do that is because when an EDACS system tells the users where to go, it says go to channel X, Y, or Z, basically. And it doesn't give a channel layout as a part of the protocol. So if you don't put channels X, Y, and Z in your scanner correctly, you're not going to be able to follow the conversation on a talk group. So it's very important that you follow logical channel numbering, sometimes abbreviated as LCN or Lima, Charlie, November in your scanner. So when you program in your scanner, and if you didn't listen to last week's podcast when we explained this, I'm going to go through it again really quick. Logical channel numbering needs to be in the set numbering order. And the easiest way to do that is if you have one of those dynamic scanners like the Uniden BCT 15X, or maybe an older version like the 246T or something like that, you have to, first, when you set up the site, it's going to ask you for the LCN, or the logical channeling number. If you don't have a dynamic radio, or one that uses dynamic memory allocation, you need to make sure that you put the frequency into the correct memory location of the bank. So channel 1 needs to be in the numerical number 1 of whatever bank you're going into. So if your scanner has 100 channels per bank, that means in the bank that starts with channel number 100 or starts with channel 101, you need to make sure it's in 101, 102, 103, 104. If your banks have 50 channels and your next bank starts with channel 51, logical channel number 1 needs to go into channel 51. Again, the first number of the bank, okay? So that aside, remember, the most important part right now about putting in the frequencies is to make sure you put them in logical channel order, okay? So where can you find your logical channel numbering? Well, hopefully when you have the layout of the system, it will be written down in LCN. So if you go to maybe the radio reference database, it's always assigned in there. You'll see the 01, 02, 03 in a light gray, at least at this time of the recording, in the channel layout grid. And not every channel needs to be assigned. You can skip a number or something like that. And you also have to watch out too that on occasion the system may grow and you may start adding more channel numbers into the pool of frequencies. So let's back up 1 second here. Let's explain again how trunking works. If you haven't listened to the previous podcast that went through trunking, that one is available on session number 7. So if you go to scannerschool.com/session7, you can listen to our introduction on trunked radio systems, which basically breaks down how a trunking system would operate generically. Okay. So with EDACS was developed by Ericsson back in the day, and there's multiple different kinds of EDACS protocols out there. And just to clarify too, it was kind of built by Ericsson and also GE, and through buyouts and mergers and all that stuff. Basically, right now it's developed, I believe, by Harris or MACOM. I got a couple of websites open here that I keep referring back to, but I believe here the last thing I see says it's from Harris. EDACS right now, again, it's 2018, so last year Harris basically said that they're sunsetting the EDACS system, so it's basically at the end of life. And basically what that means is that if any systems are out there right now using EDACS, that they may not be able to get replacement equipment or new radios or that kind of things. And the reason why you would sunset a system like EDACS is because technology changes, and they want to put their resources and their development into newer technologies such as P25. And we're going to talk about P25 on future sessions of the Scanner School podcast. So make sure you subscribe to us, again, on iTunes or Stitcher or even on the website, and we'll keep you updated on when new podcasts come out. Another great way to subscribe to us is to use our mailing list, which is on the front page of the website. So again, you just put your email address, and we'll let you know as new sessions come out. If you decide you don't want to subscribe, just remember that every Tuesday you can find another Scanner School podcast. So back to EDACS. So EDACS has a couple of different flavors to it. The most common would be something like EDACS Standard or EDACS Narrow Band. And what that means is that it's the bandwidth. And again, we've talked about bandwidth on previous episodes of the Scanner School podcast. So not to sound a little bit like I'm repeating myself here, but if you haven't listened to it yet, you can listen to a little bit of wideband and narrowband and whatnot on Scanner School Session 5. Again, scannerschool.com/session5, where we discuss AM, FM, sideband, wideband FM, and narrowband FM. Okay, so again, back to the topic that we have here. EDACS has a couple different flavors. There's wideband and there's narrowband. And what you have to remember is that the wideband is basically a 25 kilohertz wide, 9.6 kilobit trunked control channel. And the narrowband version is 12.5 kilohertz, which is half the bandwidth. And it uses 4.8 kilobits trunking. So it's slightly slower on a controlled channel bit rate. So the actual data bits that go out over the controlled channel is different. All right. But the basic theory on how this system works, whether it's wideband or narrowband, is the same. So let's talk about that. The torque groups that are set up on an EDACS system, what we call AFS. Okay, and that stands basically for agency, fleet, subfleet. All right. What does that look like? Well, you have a 2-digit number followed by a hyphen or a dash, followed by a 3-digit number. So I'll just call that a 2x3. Okay. So the first 2 digits on a properly configured EDACS system would be your agency. And I use the term loosely here for properly because you can have, it doesn't always follow this protocol. So what you would basically see is, as an example, maybe 00 as the agency would be your radio techs, and 01 would be your police, 02 would be your fire, 03 would be OEM. Just as an example here, it's not set in stone. And then you would have your subfleets, which would be the 3 digits after the hyphen. And an example would be on 01-001, you may have police dispatch, and 01-002, you may have police, administration, or a tech channel. A tactical channel. So in a real ideal world, that's the way it would be set up. And I'm bringing this to light now because you don't always have to program in your scanner with the last 3 digits, which is really cool when it works. All right. I mean, I have a local system here in my county that doesn't follow the AFS protocol where the first 2 digits belong to a type of agency like police or fire, EMS, OEM, that kind of thing. So when you have the logical channel numbering in your system and you have the correct torque groups set up and broken down the way you want them, when you hit the scan key, in theory, you would be able to follow a particular torque group around the system as they were to operate. Likewise, you'll be able to filter out those that aren't programmed into your scanner. We talked about the wideband and the narrowband EDACS and how that works, but there's other variations basically on EDACS, as the system grows and whatnot. So one of the basic ways that an EDACS system could work would be a networked system. Okay. So what that basically means is you can have multiple repeater sites, multiple trunk transmitters out there that cover a large geographical area. And they could be set up as a simulcast system where everything transmits at the same exact time. So no matter where you are in the county, you'll hear whoever's on the system on a particular torque group, because every repeater is set up the same way, and logical channel 5 would key up on all the systems at the same time and would simulcast the transmission. You could also have, on a network system, individual EDACS sites, and they may have their own independent channel numbers and may or may not key up at the same time with the same torque groups on them. Again, making your spectrum more efficient. Okay. Whether it's a network system being simulcast or not, it really changes the way that you want to program in your scanner. So if you were local to a particular site and you pick that up the best, then just put in your local trunk radio site for an EDACS system. If you are roaming, you would need to, on a dynamic scanner, you would put in multiple sites and under the system, and you would be able to then roam or scan around to find the best site to listen to. The problem arises when you have an older scanner that does EDACS with multiple different sites using multiple different trunked LCNs. You would need to put them in independently on different groups, different scan groups. So if you had 3 EDACS sites all operating independently with different LCNs, you would effectively have to put that EDACS system into 3 different banks, okay? Because each one needs their own LCN. So you got to kind of keep that in the back of your mind. That's why the newer scanners that are out there that allow you to group the sites together are worth the investment. But again, not required if you have a setup that uses a simulcast system. Okay. The other kind of EDACS system out there is called EDACS SCAT, and that stands for Single Channel Autonomous Trunking, and that's abbreviated by Sierra, Charlie, Alpha, Tango in proper phonetics. So what happens with an EDACS SCAT system, and I'm going to read this right off the radio reference wiki, and it says that a EDACS SCAT is a system that operates on a single channel with an alternate control data with analog voice. Some scanners have this programming option, cannot track IDs on this system. Okay, that's something to keep in mind. So when we talk about SCAT, what does that kind of remind you of besides the regular term for SCAT here? It sounds like LTR trunking, right? Where you have a control channel that also operates as a voice channel. All right. So that's another way that you can have an EDACS system. And a lot of radios will ask you when you program, is it an EDACS Wide, Narrow, or a SCAT system? So if you have a network system that has multiple channels on it, one control channel, then you're not looking for an EDACS SCAT system. Okay, so let's talk about an extended key system, or it's sometimes called as a EDACS security key, abbreviated by ESK, or Echo Sierra Kilo in proper phonetics. So what happens with an EDACS-ESK system is it adds a little bit of security key to heighten the security on the EDACS system. And for a long time, any EDACS system that used an ESK, you wouldn't be able to monitor it from a typical EDACS scanner. So a lot of the new scanners that are out there will also support ESK as a protocol. So there are some systems that support ESK, such as, and again, I'm looking at the radio reference wiki right now. At the very bottom of their ESK page, it lists a couple of EDACS system. One of the biggest ones out there is the Florida Statewide Law Enforcement Radio System, which is the SLURS system. Okay, so if you have a EDACS system programmed in your scanner and you're having a hard time monitoring them, that may be something to look at if you go to the radio reference database and make sure that you're not using or trying to monitor an ESK system. If you are, the couple of radios out there that would help you. And again, these will be links. There'll be affiliate links in the show notes. And basically what an affiliate link is if you use my link to purchase one of these radios, we would make a very small commission on the sale of that. So if you wanted to thank us for the podcast or something like that, there will be Amazon associates or affiliate links in the show notes of this podcast. So you're looking at some older radios, the GRE PSR 500, 600, the Uniden BCD 396T or the 996T. Also the, I believe the 346 XT will also do it. The newer scanners out there, like the BCT 15, the 325 P2, the 996 P2, will all do the ESK. Uniden's BCD 436, 536 models will do it if you purchase the ProVoice update. So what exactly is ProVoice? Okay, ProVoice is EDACS digital side or digital talk groups. So what happened with EDACS is they decided that, of course, they wanted some sort of digital voice solutions talk groups as well. And the first version of it, and I'm not really sure the proper way to say this, would be an AEGIS. That's Alpha, Echo, Golf, India, Sierra. And that was their first version of their digital system or their digital voice solution. It's a first generation, and I don't really believe it worked very well. It's been outdated and replaced by ProVoice, okay? And up until recently, you couldn't find a scanner out there that would do ProVoice. Again, United's newer scanner line, the 325P2, the 996P2, the 436P2, and the 536P2 will support ProVoice if you pay Uniden for a $50 upgrade fee. Now, again, that's at the time of recording, so the price on the update may change, okay? So basically what the ProVoice is a IMBE solution. It's not APCO 25 compliant. So that's one thing to think about when you have a ProVoice system. Okay, so there are systems out there that do use ProVoice, and that's something, again, to take a look at when you look at purchasing a scanner for monitoring a EDACS system. So in a quick nutshell, that is EDACS Trunking. So again, it's very similar in a way to LTR, where you have to use logical channel numbering. Again, it's very important that you program your system in with logical channel numbering. Without programming it in correctly, your scanner will not track the system correctly. You'll need to do your AFS or your agency fleet subfleet torque groups properly. So again, I'm trying to keep these sessions simple. We could really get into a lot of the nuts and bolts on how these trunking protocols work, and I've chosen not to do that because I don't think that putting somebody to sleep while they're driving is a good idea. So again, if I'm going a little too high on how these trunking protocols work, please let me know. Leave me feedback. You could do so on the website by using the contact form, or you can join us in our Facebook community at scannerschool.com/Facebook group and let me know. Am I going too fast or am I going too slow? Am I, not to insult anybody, if I'm dumbing it down too much, let me know. If I'm hitting the nail on the head, let me know that as well. Again, I'm trying to give you the most information that I can without boring you. I don't want to make these podcasts an hour long and lose everybody on the details. So if I can teach you guys how these trunking protocols how they work, and the nuts and bolts can be saved for later or for a blog post or something like that. So today's session is sponsored by EastCoastPagers.com. East Coast Pagers is a Unication, Apollo, and Swiss phone dealer serving the U.S. market. From one-way numeric and alphanumeric pagers to voice and P25 pagers, they have you and your department covered. Check out EastCoastPagers.com for Unication G1, G4, and G5 products and accessories. So all G1 pagers will ship with a spare set of batteries and a spare belt clip, courtesy of East Coast Pagers. Now, all G4 and G5 orders will ship with a spare belt clip, and until March 31st, every G4 and G5 will also come with a free Phase 2 upgrade to allow you to monitor Phase 2 P25 transmissions. So as a extra bonus, if you go to eastcoastpagers.com/scannerschool, you'll have a extra surprise in your shopping cart, courtesy of East Coast Pagers. And this little bonus is only available to the listeners of Scanner School. So again, go to eastcoastpagers.com/scannerschool for a little bonus in your shopping cart, courtesy of East Coast Pagers. And if you have a order for your fire district or just something personal you need and you need a custom quote, again, don't hesitate to contact eastcoastpagers.com for your custom quote. Again, eastcoastpagers.com handles all Unication and Swiss phone accessories and are available online or via a custom quote at eastcoastpagers.com. So before we go, let's take a quick look at some feedback we've gotten throughout the last week or so via the contact form or via our newsletter response. Again, I do read all my email that comes in. May not be able to answer you immediately, but I do take a look at all messages that come in via the email portals, either via the website or from straight email. And again, you can also leave your feedback on SpeakPipe, which is pretty neat, which allows you to record a voice message to me using your smartphone's browser or your computer. And a link to the SpeakPipe voicemail will be at the show notes at scannerschool.com/session9. If you prefer, you can also leave me a voicemail question on our hotline or our phone number, which is U.S. area code 516-308-2885. Again, 516-308-2885. And again, this number will be in the show notes for this podcast. So our first one is from Brad Hill, and he writes in, newbie from Wyoming with a BCD 536 HP. I know zero about scanners. So Wyoming has an ABCO P25 service, he writes. The closest tower is about 2 miles from my house. I would like to mount a diamond disc cone on about a 10-foot mast on the end of my shop, which has a metal roof. On one end of the shop, I have a metal chimney that sticks up about 2 feet from the peak of the roof and 5 feet from the eave of my roof. Can I mount the mast on the end of the shop with the chimney? I believe the antenna will be above the chimney by a foot, or should I mount it on the other end of the shop? This location would add cable length. Also, what type of cable should I use? Brad, thanks for your question. First of all, if you are going to listen to just the ABCO P25 system and nothing else, I would suggest doing away with or skipping the external antenna. And the reason why I suggest this is that if you are getting a good enough receive in your house with the back of set antenna, that may just be a good enough solution to get you by. And sometimes using the KISS method or keep it simple is the best way to go here. The other reason why I suggest maybe forgetting about the external antennas, because a lot of scanners have problems with simulcast, and that causes major issues on the receive of P25 signals. So if you have multiple towers simulcasting the same information, it could be problematic for you. So if you have good receive coming in on your local tower that you want to receive, I think best back of set antenna may be just the simplest and best solution to get you by. But if you're looking to cover anything else besides this ABCO P25 repeater you're looking at, or a trunk system, I would suggest moving the antenna as far as you can from other metal objects. I mean, you have a metal chimney, you're saying, and I fear that it might distort the signal a little bit or play negatively on the characteristics of the antenna that you are going to put up. I like the fact that you're going to go with the disc cone antenna, and I think that's a good solution. And for anybody who wants information about this disc cone antenna, I'll leave a link for it in the session notes at scannerschool.com/session9. The link will be an affiliate link, which means that I'll get a small commission on the sale if you happen to purchase it using my link, but at no additional cost to you. It's just basically a referral that we get credit for the sale. The other thing, the other part of your question was what cable should I use, because it would be adding length. So I'm not sure exactly how much length we're looking at adding, but general rule of thumb is, and the best cable I recommend would be LMR 400. That's Lima Mary Romeo, or I'm sorry, Lima Mike Romeo in proper phonetics. LMR 400. And that's some really low loss half-inch coax cable. You can get it pre-made with end connections on both ends. So the diamond disc cone antenna should have an end connector on it. You'll need an N to BNC adapter to go from the coax end to the back of the radio, unless you're using some sort of jumper. So the only issue is that LMR 400 is a bit expensive. It's just shy under a buck a foot. So depending on how much you're going to use is, if it's going to add another 100 feet, that's another $100. So, it really is the best solution. It's what I recommend. It's what a lot of other people recommend. It is what I use here. Another low loss cable that runs fairly cheap, and you can see if it will work well for you, would be RG6. I don't really recommend it because the impedance on an RG6 and coax is 75 ohms, and the antenna system you're putting up and the back of the radio looks for 50 ohms. Receive only, it may play a little bit of a role in it, but if you're looking to cut costs, you could try the RG6. It's available at Home Depot. It's the same cable that you use to hook up your cable TV or your satellite TV and that kind of stuff. So as much as I don't recommend it, it's a decent alternative if you're trying to pinch pennies on the coax. But, I don't recommend it. It's kind of like saying, you got the sports car and you're going to put the wrong tires on it. So the tires are what connects the car to the road, and the coax is what connects basically, your antenna to the back of the radio. So I would suggest LMR 400. And again, I'll put a link in the show notes for you. And again, that will be an affiliate link. So Brad, thank you so much for writing in with your question. So David from Kentucky writes in that these podcasts are great. David, I certainly appreciate the feedback. Keep up the great work in helping us to begin to understand the mysteries of our hobby. I've been scanning since the early 70s and still consider myself a novice, so your podcast will help to expand my understanding of a fun hobby. I scan conventional, P25, trunk, DMR, and some HF monitoring, as well as aircraft and ADS-B as a variety of hardware. All the best in this project. Look forward to soaking in some more information. Cheers, David from Kentucky. David, thank you so much for writing in, and thank you so much for the feedback. If you want to do me a favor too, I would love to see some feedback in my iTunes. So if you can go to scannerschool.com/iTunes and leave some feedback there, that would be most appreciated. It really helps others find us in iTunes, because iTunes does use the feedback ranking to kind of rank the podcast, and it moves it up the chart a little bit. So it will help others to find the podcast. So Brad writes in, KD8RBU is his amateur radio call sign. And he says, Phil, thanks for the podcast and website. I really enjoy listening to it. I'm an amateur radio operator, and what I really enjoy doing is operating portable. That takes several forms: backpacking, car camping, and setting up a field station for a day or a weekend. When I'm setting up the field station, which I begin doing again in a couple of weeks, I will have everything set up from a local to HF and SWL and monitoring my scanner. So my number one question would be this: for a field station setup, what antenna would you recommend for scanning and monitoring? To this point, I just use a telescopic whip on the back of the radio, but I usually have a mast and tripod set up for 2 other antennas for HF and 2 meters. I would like an antenna that's fairly portable and quick to set up. I know a disc cone would probably be the number one option. I've always wanted one, but have concerns with portability and ease of use. Is there a smaller disc cone that is more conducive to non-permanent field operating, or something else you would recommend? My area is mainly P25, 700 megahertz, by the way, and also listening to UHF and VHF. Brent, great question. I'm very interested in your portable operation, so I'll be reaching out to you via email about that, and maybe share some pictures with us. I'd love to see a picture of your setup. You can do so in our Facebook group at scannerschool.com/Facebook group, and also on Twitter. We're at @scanner_school or at scannerschool.com/Twitter. So to answer your question, I think the disc cone would be a great idea. And some disc cone antennas could be a little bit large, could be a little bit cumbersome to set up, especially when they use set screws to hold the elements in place. But Diamond makes a really interesting product. It's the Diamond. Looking for it here on my web. I tabbed it here. It's a mobile disc cone antenna, and it works and they claim it works for 100 to 1600 megahertz. It's, of course, omnidirectional, and it will also allow you to trans on 2 meters, 440, 900 megahertz, and 1200 megahertz. So it covers the VHF, UHF ham band. Won't get you 6 meters like some disc cones do, but this might be a good compromise for you if you use something like a duplexer or diplexer rather, and you can split maybe to your 2 meter radio and operate that, and then the rest goes to the scanner, so you can still listen to your 700 megahertz system. So this antenna, it's a mobile mount disc cone antenna. It's a little funky looking, but it doesn't require a ground plane, which means it doesn't need a magnetic base underneath it like most mobile antennas do, right? Most mobile antennas require a magnet or something like that, because they use the sheet metal on your car as the ground plane, which basically means it works as a mirror and makes the antenna RF characteristics a full the wavelength that it's cut for, not a full wavelength, but whatever it's supposed to be resonant at. So you don't require a ground plane with this antenna. Now it's the Diamond D22R. That's Delta 22. I'm sorry, it's the Delta 220R. Again, Delta 220 Romeo. I will put a link for this also in our show notes with an affiliate link. And again, the affiliate link will give us a small referral commission, I guess is the best way to say it, and no additional cost to anybody who uses it. So it's a good way to help support the Scanner School podcast by using the affiliate links on the website. So it does have about 6 elements and a cone element, and it does have a couple of pieces on it. So if you labeled it or use a little bit of paint on the elements and also where they screw in, I'm sure that you could get this set up in maybe about 15 minutes or so. And again, it's not as large as a standard disc cone antenna, but this one may get the job done for you, especially since you're working mostly in a portable setup. So again, would love to see some pictures and see how you're operating. So good luck out there in the field, and maybe one day I'll work you while you're camping on HF or something. Very good. Thank you everyone again for your feedback, and we do have some more, so I'll get them and I'll table them for another session of the Scanner School podcast. So again, you can get in our Facebook group, which I recommend because I am giving away three consulting sessions, which are 30 minutes apiece to 3 winners. So one consulting session for 3 winners is the best way to say it, and the best way or the only way really to get your name in the hat is to join our Facebook community and to leave a comment or a question in there, and go to scannerschool.com/Facebook group. The window for the contest closes on February 28th, 2018. So you have about another week and change to get in there. And so if you don't win, which would be, would be a little unfortunate because, it's always nice to win something. I am available for consulting for anybody else who's looking for consulting services. And no question, scanner related is off limits. I'll be more than happy to log in and show you how to do things with TeamViewer or talk to you over the phone if you have any questions about buying hardware or coax or anything like that. And my advice is there, or to help you program, to help you set something up that's not working right. And just go to scannerschool.com/consulting to contact me and to book an appointment for your consulting. Also want to remind everybody that you can leave us some voice feedback, again, by using SpeakPipe, which is available on the session notes for today's session, and also on our voicemail number, which, again, is U.S. area code 516-308-2885. Again, 516-308-2885. So I'll see you all again next Tuesday when we talk about Motorola trunking systems, and that will get close to wrapping up the basic trunked systems that are out there. Again, we'll go into more advanced stuff, but for now we're going to hit the easier topics and the ones that have been out there for a while, and that will really wrap up when you see the trunk tracker on the front of your radio. This is Trunk Tracker 3. That'll wrap up the very first 3 when it comes to the trunking series. So again, we'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you so much for your feedback. Thanks for being there. And like always, keep scanning. 73, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Scanner School podcast. Be sure to visit www.scannerschool.com to access the show notes and bonus content.